unnecessary.
We don't need state police.
Why?
By the time we establish a state police in this country, that will be the beginning and the end of Nigerian democracy. As we are going now, our democracy is at danger. It's at very risk. The risk is about 70-80% of being collapsed. When we bring in state police now, the next thing is this man is an opposition. Go and take him in his house, kill him. That one will come. Because these criminal governors, I call them criminals, are in his station because I know what they're doing. These people can send somebody to your house to go and kill you. Because we know many people that were killed. A lot of people that were killed by the government, state killing. We know that.
So do you think there will be an extension of abuse of power?
Of course, abuse of power, serious one. They will eliminate a lot of people, innocent people, just because they oppose them.
From the outset, Mr. President, let me make it clear that I am in support of this bill and I am in support of the idea of state police. I have been consistent on this, not only when I was in the House of Reps as Speaker and as Governor of Sokoto State, even while here in the Senate. In a number of interviews I granted, I alluded to the fact that I support state police because I believe that that will also be a major leap into entrenchment of federalism in Nigeria. And Nigeria is a federation. Mr. President, only about 3-4 weeks ago, in my senatorial district, we lost over 80 people in Tunita local government to bandits attack. Only 3-4 days ago, in the same local government, we lost some personnel of police that went there on rescue mission to send away bandits. So that is a clear picture of what is happening in most parts of the country. This is needed. Every effort, any effort that will ensure that we curb this menace of insecurity in Nigeria is needed. And it's on this note that I support this bill, and I urge my colleagues to support it, and I reinforce the concerns raised by Senator Abaribi. We must have safeguards that will now ensure that there is no abuse on the part of those who are today in that position that we have left, and those who are coming, even those from amongst us, to those positions of being governors of particular states. I believe that as Senate of this country, we must ensure that we support Mr. President and we support the security agencies in every effort that will establish security in every part of this country. I so support Mr. President.
You can amend the Constitution, but then in the Act, matters of usage of the policies where most Nigerians are bothered about. The mover of the lead debate has said that those things will be taken care of. I think that as part of what we will also pass today is also to make sure that in those aspects of the Constitution, because I've seen 2 or 3 where it says that the president will merely write a letter and take over, or merely write a letter to no. We think that not just the president, but that power must also be shared with the National Assembly and the Senate in particular, just like we have done in state of emergency. Because we cannot have a situation where the president just looks at a state, maybe he's not in good terms with the governor, and decides that he will take it over. How would you go against that? So I think that we should look very much into that. The second and the last part of what I will look into is the question of funding. Today, we are aware that states have far more funding than before. But we also had a time in which states didn't have as much money, which means that he who pays the piper will also dictate the tune. So what we will have to ensure that we go into the act is that funds that we go to the state police commission must be guaranteed by the Constitution and go directly to the commission, so that what we are seeing today with regard to local government funds, we don't have to see it with the police, because if we do that, then for people like us who come from the southeast, where in 2 or 3 kilometers you see 10 checkpoints. You will now have 100 checkpoints by state people who will have to fend for themselves if they don't have the requisite funding.
What we have done is this. Areas where we have serious and very pertinent problems in Nigerian police is one, recruitment. Now recruitment, once it is done in the local areas, which we now, let's say, state, we have more policemen and women recruited. We have them to be recruited among the locals who understand the terrain where they are going to operate. So it is now going to be a police commissioner or a DPO from Ilawekiti who will now be manning a post in Katsina, who will not know anywhere, who will just come there to be learning the ropes, and before he knows 1 or 2 streets or quarters in Katsina, he or she would have been transferred to another place, maybe Gombe or to Akwa Ibom. So now that one has already been cured. It means that we have now taken policing to the doorsteps of everyone in the local areas. That means that one is already cured. Then secondly, when we now talk about the personnel, even the performances of the personnel.
Yes, efficiency.
Now, when we now look at a policeman from Ibadan, and he is a native of Ibadan, then for him, the propensity for him, in order not to behave very well, is very low. Why is it very low? Because they know where he comes from, they know who the families are, they know where they live. So it is easy for him to be stigmatized even by his own action and inaction. So definitely efficiency can now be raised among the personnel of the police. Then when we now talk of funding, we are now looking at it. For example, today we have been debating the police trust fund, whereby we are going to have not only that the states will be responsible for the personnel, the training, and some other functions of the state police. Then there are some areas like equipment and so on and so forth, whereby the police trust fund will take care of. So we are making sure that we are not going to leave it only for the states to provide for the state police. Then the federal too will have its own role in making sure that some more funds are now channeled or funneled to the police, to the state police, so that we can have a very robust state police that can perform the duty that we are now constantly saddling them with. Because what we want to cure is to make sure that the incessant terrorism, incessant kidnapping, banditry, and all sorts are blotted out in Nigeria. So, and the only way we think we can do that one like any other Nigeria, because we are not more Nigerian than other Nigerians, is that let us have police that are local, that reasons locally, that we act locally, and that we deliver locally. So that is what the state police is all about.
Lawmakers reconvened in anticipation of the passage of the State Police Bill, but went into closed session.
A very brief closed-door session.
When plenary resumed, the Senate suspended its rules to allow some governors and senior government officials to witness the historic exercise, a move that initially met resistance on the floor. It took an appeal by the president of the Senate for lawmakers to revisit the issue and eventually admit some key dignitaries, including the governors of Ogun, Ondo, and Kaduna State, as well as the chief of staff to the president, Femi Gbajabiamila. The exercise also witnessed an early hitch, as the initial plan to deploy electronic voting was disrupted by technical challenge.
And the need for the constituents to know where you stand on every issue, that is good for us to go into manual voting.
Leading the debate, the Senate leader Okpeyemi Bamidele described the bill as a major response to growing calls for the decentralization of policing powers.
National consensus among stakeholders, including state governments, traditional institutions, civil society organizations, security experts, and notable scholars on the need to decentralize policing, while also preserving national unity and security coordination.
Now the floor is open for debate.
In my senatorial district, we lost over 80 people in Toreta local government to bandits attack. Only 3-4 days ago, in the same local government, we lost some personnel of police that went there on rescue mission to send away bandits. So that is a clear picture of what is happening in most parts of the country. This is needed.
Following the debate, the Senate adopted the bill and immediately proceeded to clause-by-clause consideration, with all 25 clauses approved as transmitted by President Bola Tinubu. Key highlights of the proposed legislation include: it prohibits any governor from directing a state police service to unlawfully target any person, political party, group, or association. It bars the use of police powers for partisan, ethnic, religious, sectional, or personal interest. The bill allows federal government to intervene where there is a breakdown of public order, where a state police service becomes incapable of functioning, abuses of fundamental rights, cases of partisan or electoral intimidation or threat to national security. Such intervention must be authorized in writing by the president, stating the grounds, the territory, functions, and duration of the intervention. But notices must also be sent within 48 hours to the state governor, the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, the National Police Council, and the National Assembly.
Well, the next phase for this bill is the harmonization stage between the Senate and the House of Representatives to iron out gray areas as passed by both chambers and eventually sent to the State Houses of Assembly, where about 24 out of the 36 states are expected to pass this bill before it's sent back to the National Assembly and eventually to the executive for possible assent. Oyeja Oron, AIT News, Abuja.